Hey, geometry. We're going to start a unit here, or continue our unit on the study of triangles, more specifically the trigonometry portion of studying of triangles. And if you remember, we talked about this before, but I'm going to go over it again. We have from the Iowa core curriculum that defining trigonometric ratios and solving problems involving right triangles is something that you have to be able to do. So if you notice there in number 8, it says use trigonometric ratios and the Pythagorean theorem to solve right triangles and applied problems. And we're going to look at that. But to be able to get to that first, we've got to be able to find the angle measures. So what we do to find the measure angles is, that's kind of a darker color. Hopefully you can see it a little better than I can. To find an angle measure, you must use the inverse trig function, also known as the arc trig functions. These are the ones that will let us know that we have to find angles. Before, when we were doing our basic sine, cosine, and tangent, we were looking for sides and how are the sides related to that. But those sides and the angles are related. So here's an example of what we might look at here. And I'm going to change the font color on this just to make it brighter. Let's go a nice white for now. Okay, so we have the sine of angle A is 0.8660. So if I want to find the measure of angle A, I will do the arc sine of angle A. Or it's sine -1 power. On the calculator, if you're using the calculator, you're probably looking at the sine, arc sine, which is the inverse sine on the calculator. So I gave you a table that had all those values in it. In that table, what it would mean is I'm going to go down the sine column and I'm going to find that decimal. And I'm going to write down what the angle is from that. Now, if I'm using the calculator, this means that I would be using, I would have to hit the second or the shift key before that. Let's see if I can bring up my calculator here. Okay, so there we go. On this calculator, I have to put the number in first, so remember that, 0.8660. So there's my number, and then I would do the inverse or the arc sine. So I have to hit a shift or a second. In this case, it's the INV, and I'll notice I have a sine -1 value there, and it gets me this 59.99708. Yeah, it goes on quite a ways. Okay, so I would say my angle is 60 degrees, rounded to the nearest tenth. And that's the way I would find the angle. So let's try a few here. What if the sine of B is 0.2985? Well, that means that the measure of angle B has to be the arc sine or inverse sine of 0.2985, which gets us around 17.4 degrees when I round it to 1 decimal place. Now, I don't only have to do this in sine, it'll work in cosine and in tangent. So in tangent, you would do that the measure of angle C is equal to the inverse tangent of 0.3894. And if we bring our calculator back up again, I had the other one memorized. So we got 0.3894, hit my second, tan. It tells me I got 21.2759, so to the nearest tenth, 21.3 degrees. Those are my answers. Now, what happens if they give me the figure in the triangle like I have here? The first thing I do is I identify the angle that I'm looking at. That would be our angle A. And then what two sides of the triangle did they give me? Well, they gave me the hypotenuse. And with respect to angle A, the 13 is the opposite. So now the question is, which of our trig values uses opposite and hypotenuse? And if we run through our list, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, which meant that the sine of angle A was equal to 13 over 27. So if I want to find the measure of angle A, I have to do the arc sine of 13 over 27. So again, if I go to my calculator, If I go to my calculator, I would put in 13 divided by 27. I'll get a number, and then I'll do my inverse sine of that value. So I get 28.78222. So I would say it's 28.8 degrees to the nearest tenth. So that is how we find the measure of angles using our trig ratios.